I'm very delighted that you joined us today, because that's all very theoretical. Although we will have we will have the opportunity to experience actually what it takes to turn a digital artwork into a physical product in a few minutes from now. But I'm beyond delighted that I'm surrounded by my fellow panelists of today, who bring different perspectives from key industry stakeholders to the table. And I was actually juggling around with a couple of terms, and I would like to ask the experts here to shed a bit of light. And I will start with you, Oliver. Because your sweater matches the background. That's why. Yeah, it's all about style. We talked about time to market. I was mentioning that a few times. Maybe you can, you represent H&M, but you also have your own professional experience, and you're a consumer yourself, just as all of us. Why is it important? Why is time to market important? And are there any key technologies, key drivers that facilitate that transition?
Yes. But before I answer, I just want to say that I have never met someone who can press so much content into 10 minutes, like a white paper in a study. So it's just fantastic. Please read it. It's amazing. So well done, and congratulations. I mean, to you guys, setting this up, for your vision, for inviting the people, and for everything that will happen in the future. I can imagine how tough that is, because we are working on another angle. We are working on innovation in fashion retail, and it's not the most easy. But I felt like congratulations for that. So having said that. I feel time to market is definitely key, and this may not have been like that 10 years ago. So if you look how dramatically, radically the fashion industry changed, it becomes quite obvious that we also need to cope with that change, and we need to offer fashion maybe in a different way. And I like that we are not questioning fashion itself. So it's not about saying that, well, fashion is bad and we shouldn't self-express, we shouldn't have pink police. I think the value of fashion for society is just amazing, showing who you are, who you belong to, who you not belong to. So that's great. And I feel that there was a major shift the last years on being more local. And express what Berlin wants to express, while Munich expresses what Munich expresses. And not long time ago, big global brands, they tried to look the same everywhere. So you wanted to have the same experience, the same products, the same feeling you want to generate. And I feel the beauty also of physical retail nowadays is that when you go somewhere, you want to feel the vibe of a city. You want to have a different offer in experience, but as well as in the product. So that means that's a fantastic opportunity, or a challenge, as you have said, but I think it's an opportunity. And in order to serve society with these values that fashion retail can bring, I think it's important to look at how the technological development happened the last years, and how quicker and quicker and quicker things happen. A lot of things that we have seen today, they were out there since some years, but only on islands, like bits and pieces of it, right? And I feel for the first time you're bringing it all together. And what I feel from our point of view, what we have investigated and tested as a retail lab is small batch and on-demand production as such. Right, which is great. And if you are nearshoring, you have so many possibilities to make the right product at the right time for the right space, right? You can personalize, you can individualize, and you can produce exactly what is needed. And on top of that, I would not forget that it's important to do proper data analysis and leveraging AI to understand what the market really wants and needs. So that's, I think, a basic principle that is also part of it. And the third I could mention from a technological perspective, what I extremely like about what you are presenting, 3D design and the digital way of creating fashion will have a tremendous effect on the traditional way of how garments are produced, and it will allow a total different way of consuming. So we will sell stuff before we even produce, which is the principle of on-demand. And this is what I love, and it will have only positive benefits for companies, consumers, but most importantly for the planet, because we will be way more efficient and way more sustainable in producing garments.
That's actually a fantastic promotion to the collaboration that will be introduced later on in the experience, and also great keywords for your question. And I, we again, I juggled around with a couple of terms, and maybe you can help me because that's your field of expertise. I know. So, what is actually the difference of on-demand production, made-to-order, mass customization? Is it all the same?
Yeah, of course not. Yeah. I mean, let's say let's start from the highest degree of individualization. So this is basically made to measure. Yeah. So like a suit, for instance, is the classic made to measure piece. Then we have made to customize. So here my shoes are customized. Okay. That's the second module, let's say like this. Then made to order. So these are small capsule collections which are produced, or replenishment. Then we have specific programs like never out of stock, yeah, which you also can use as a supply chain method. And of course the still, unfortunately, traditional mass production. Yeah. And I think, I mean, the question is also like how these different methods evolve over the time. And I think what we see, especially with the front end, what is happening here, especially driven by social media. I mean, nowadays everybody is not really keen to talk about it, but the Shein model actually is really is a big conversation. And I mean, what they are doing well, yeah, despite all the horrible sustainable stuff, what they are doing, yeah, is actually hitting the demand. Yeah. So they developed algorithm like to understand the user demand and have sell-through rates like 90%. Yeah. So and all this was artificial intelligence based. They detect the demand, increase it, and understand it, and how to deliver. And I think the industry to also like hit better the demand itself. Mm-hmm. I think need to be much more agile. Yeah, like switching dynamically between the different methods I just explained. Yeah, depending on the channel which is like coming up, for instance. Yeah, like in Berlin, for instance. Yeah, or somewhere else in the world. Yeah,
and that might also enable more exciting products in the future. I'm actually sometimes bored by the very alike assortment, so I'm pretty much with you. But correct me if I'm wrong, but the reality that many, especially independent and small-scale brands face is high minimum order quantities and long lead times, and that's for a reason, because over the course of the past 4 decades, there was a massive offshoring, outsourcing, brain drain, and so on. 95% of production capacities in Germany are gone and will probably never come back. So what we do here is quite an experiment. So my question would be to you, Michael, as an industrial equipment supplier like STOLL, providing like machinery for industry scale companies. Can you describe why is it so hard to reduce minimum order quantities? Why are we still stuck in offshoring and big bulk production?
Well, lots of questions in one question, actually. So we as a manufacturer of flat knitting machines, which are basically offering us or the customers or even the production side many options to produce with one machine, flexibility. We already asked ourselves 10 years ago where the market will be in the future, how the supply chain will be in the future, how the way of ordering from the customer will be different as compared. He said it already, it changed dramatically in the last 10 years. We were the early birds, let's say in that way. We changed the machines in that way that we said, okay, the machine has to be intelligent, flexible, sustainable, and together with our software solutions, we can offer the customization towards the customer in a mass production or itself in a micro production plant as you plan it to have it here. So the machines are ready, software is there, so we are ready to cover the sustainability. It's coming up more and more. I just came back from Hong Kong and Vietnam last week, saw big factories, even those guys which have thousands of machines running, they thinking about how they can reduce this mass production towards an on-demand factory producing exactly that what we need. And the pandemic situation underlined this thinking, or to speed up the thinking in a dramatic way. I think he can confirm this, that the thinking is everywhere, but not really a plan behind. So we need to speed up, and it's the right way.
Count us in. So maybe you can refer to that or add to that, because I wonder, it all sounds magical almost. Everything is there. We are all convinced it has to happen. So why is it not reality yet? What hinders that?
Well, that's a fair question to me. I agree, and I guess generally we're not talking about the fashion industry only. We're talking about other industries as well when it's about transformation and change. I mean, look at the car industry, the German car industry, right? How long it existed, how it came to play, how much power it has and had, and how dramatically this will now change, right? And how innovation doesn't seem to happen within the last decades. And I feel the fashion industry itself, right? If you look throughout the supply chain, you see that there was not that much innovation happening. So it was a well-functioning machine. I think the predictions themselves in the past, it was more or less, it was a bit more easier to predict what you can sell, as you said, right? So 6 months lead times. So for some projects, it's definitely possible still. So I feel maybe there was a lack of urgency in the past, which is now, of course, like stacking up to a need to cope with the speed and the complexity of change. So I feel this is maybe a thing, and what we talk about very often in the team is that it doesn't feel like you need to on the street you're driving. You need to build faster cars or something or another lane. It just feels like you even need to go for another street. So you need to build another system. And I think that's maybe the biggest challenge. But I'm extremely confident for the whole industry because, very naively speaking, the technologies are there, the ideas are there. There is testings and R&D. It's just a matter of how can we build that in and how can we scale it, right? So I think time's right to not just talk about small tiny initiatives that show how it works in laboratory circumstances. I think now it's time about bringing the puzzle pieces all together and showing the significant impact on the business, on the people and on the planet. So I'm extremely excited about this, to be honest. It's great, and I feel that we have the urgency, and I feel we are tackling this now with the right mindset that comes with the urgency. If you look at the planetary resources and how we have made use of the planet in the past.
To add something in this, what he said, you're totally right. But on the other side, I believe, I believe that the final consumer has to pay more for these garments, let's say in that way, because the sustainability way of manufacturing will be an increasing cost issue. But on the other side, I'm sure that the consumer will be in the situation or willing to pay this additional costs if he sees the value and the customization behind it, and of course the ESG aspects, as he said already. So if this is a complete story, then I will totally underline that we will be successful in the future.
And I would add to that as well, which I think is very important. And maybe we will need more time.
Steffen and I, we go for beers. So you guys can.
What is equally exciting next to technological developments is talking about circular business models. So I think We oftentimes take a lot of time talking about potential price increases, other qualities, but I think what should be part of the same discussion is that being fashionable and expressing who you are doesn't mean that you just need to shop every piece new, right? So there's circular business models that are rapidly developing and growing extensively. So if they are nowadays just a small part of the business, you can see that the growth rates are fantastic, right? And that means if we have circular design principles, if we use the right materials, and if we go for stamina within the product, right? There's so much touch points on the product that maybe it's part of that play of how much do we invest. So is there a cost to it, or is it also rather so that you might not need to buy a product fully to use it for an occasion you have, right? Maybe you just rent it, or you sell a product back again because you're a prosumer, so you have the power. So that's also part of it. Not sure if we will talk about it, but if we bring this on the table as well, so how we consume next to how we produce and where, I think there's also the magic, if I can say that.
Amen. Let's also let's include Steffen, because maybe you can. What is probably special about Kornit? That's why I'm a big fan, and I find it very outstanding. Is you are a supplier of 8 tons heavy, 7-digit euro in costs industrial machines, but you also support London Fashion Week. So the future designers that you support using your technology will probably never become your customer. So why are you doing that? Obviously there's a plan behind, because it's potentially a strategy to enable, not to wait for the big corporates to kind of roll out those solutions, because the sheer size of an organization can also reduce the speed of development, not always, but sometimes it's a clever idea to invest in, let's say, a safe experimentation space where you invite a couple of badass creatives and innovators and let them play around with your machines and see what they develop, and take what you take the takeaways and learnings and apply them into your own R&D. Is that the strategy behind Kornit supporting creative communities?
Yeah, so actually it's like the really big key point of our company, unleashing creativity, unleashing new ideas, inspiration, and of course this can only happen like with mavericks and people who think forward, like VORN, like you, and also the students, of course. Yeah. And actually, if we are considering like the communication with the market as well, so beside on demand is very important, etc. But the kicking point, I mean, we name it dopamine rush, okay? Because when you start to experiment with printing machines, it's crazy. I mean, I get here goosebumps. Yeah. So actually, really, it's crazy actually. So you know the company I'm talking about, the automotive supplier, okay? The CFO, okay, was the most creative person in the room. Yeah, the CFO. Yeah, only numbers, only financial ideas and whatever. But she actually built up the business case for creativity in the automotive industry and also in the fashion industry because of the workshop we had and the inspiration they got by really using the creativity to really have no limits in thoughts. Yeah, to have all over printed summer design. Yeah, to have printed shirts. Yeah. And whatever, and actually I think that's the unique point, and thanks also for taking us on your journey, like since 1.5 years, right? So, and I think that's the reply. So really, and what we said, in the first panel, it's the second time now we are on the panel, like bringing creativity to boring Germany, So it's happening, and it's really cool, and so great to be here.
Yeah, likewise. We're also very excited of the magic that is happening when you lock a bunch of designers and engineers into one room and don't let them out for a bit. So I'm not sure how much time we have left. It's okay, 5 minutes. Fantastic. Because as you're here, you can't run away. I also want to ask you for a piece of advice, because there are a couple of innovation hubs like us. We're the only one in Berlin. We also have a quite distinct, let's say, set of programs and infrastructure and facilities, but we of course also team up with other innovation hubs. We had an exhibition together with Fashion for Good. We teamed up with the Mills in London. So you also work with different innovation hubs and accelerators and different creative communities. What would you say, because you have a bigger picture maybe, we are sometimes locked in a silo. You want to talk? I can see that. You can go, Ollie. No? So what would you give us as a piece of advice? What do we have to do? What shall we do? What would you recommend us as next steps?
I'm surrounded by very smart people, so I can refer to what I can speak of, which is the magic sauce of where we feel we can endlessly go for creativity, innovation, curiosity, and try out. I think it's also a mentality and it's a mindset. So we have experienced as a team that when you have a common understanding of what the future is, and when you have good intentions, and when you have like a framework and some values like taking risks, trying out hard, learn and adapt, then for us this is how we ignite collaboration and taking risks together, and also balancing out like the big corporates, the smaller startups, the quick ones, the slow ones. So within that, everyone has a role, I would say, and bringing in the values on the table that you have to offer, and ask and everyone to do the same. Felt that we believe that it does only work like that. So starting with a beginner's mindset and trying out rather than knowing all the answers. I think if we look at the future, there's hardly anyone who knows answers. I think that the quality is bringing up great questions. So this would be my part of the answer. So what's the mentality? What's the mindset? Do we feel like experts, or do we feel like pioneers trying stuff out? And iterating the process rather than trying to be perfect. So progression is also way more important than perfection. And here I can refer to a great panel where Magdalena was part of, which we had with H&M, on the question is, how do we approach change and transformation? So that would be my answer. And now I guess we will hear some fantastic smart answers from some other people.
So from the machine side, it's different. So the mindset, yes, but we're challenging indeed also other problems we have besides the mindset. Mindset is coming from the customers, but on the production side, we have also the problem that we're losing more and more the skilled people in the production side. So we need to rethink how we can set up a production plant itself. It doesn't matter where it is, if it's in Asian or Europe or in Southern America, it's all over the same. So this mindset is happening, thinking about the future setup in a production plant. If we talk about mass customization or in a one-piece production plant, it's all over the same. So we need to provide the machines to help the people to reduce the costs of in general, to be smart, to have these machines in place which learn the unskilled people on one side, and the software solutions should be there to help the people to bring it out customized. Together with their collaboration in 3D, we listen later on. So fast, less waste, CO2 footprint altogether. So this happens all over the world. We just need to do it.
And probably hyper-local here, where the consumer is. So we already planned in where the crane needs to move and how to bring them in, so that you're prepared. And also we have fantastic experts. So through our collaboration with Ito, we are in a lucky situation that we have the expertise and the brains here. I just want to see the beautiful machines doing their job, and I just want to get an evening gown made in a few minutes if I happen to be invited to a dinner. So don't make any plans, please. Is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, so actually I think from my point of view, the brand and retailer actually, I think they need to look much more deeper in technology, yeah, and in production, and actually support the transformation on production side, yeah, because basically, I mean, traditionally the requests coming to the manufacturing, yeah, and please do, yeah, I mean it is still like that. I mean, you have good cases in the industry, in the sports industry, because they are used to implement new technologies like Flyknit, for instance, yeah, Nike. They are experienced to roll out technology worldwide. And I think, like, especially if we're talking about new supply chain systems and ideas, etc., which is highly supply chain and machine related, there needs to be much more stronger influence, lobbying, nomination, mandates, from the retailer side and brand side. But it starts to happening, yeah. So, and yeah, this is the message I want to recommend.
And we take that as a piece of advice also to increase our advocacy towards that. That said, I want to heartfully thank you. I learned a lot. I hope you had a good time. And I open up for Q&A. So please take the chance. We will also mingle later on, so you can approach the speakers or us as a team. But is there any feedback or any questions, or it's all clear and you know what will happen here in a few months from now?
I will bring you a microphone if anyone has a question.
This shows the level of engagement and
I would be extremely interested as well in the material side. So,
So we have a big vision that we don't need to extract any new resources from anywhere, because I read, I think in an Ellen MacArthur Foundation report lately, that we have enough textile resources for 5 or 6 generations. So ideally we would use what is already circling around. So and to just summarize it or break it down, you can bring your old sweater and turn it into a fantastic new product. Technology is not there yet, so please, all industry stakeholders, put your best foot forward. So we will experiment and also conduct research and development activities and projects on industrial waste and pre-loved textiles. And next to that, we have a network of fantastic suppliers. So we look into biomaterials that are compostable, ideally, and recyclable contents. Quality and durability, longevity for a long-loved product is always on top of our prioritization. Does that answer your question? Fantastic. And thanks for breaking the ice. So, who's next? Yes.
Thanks, first of all, for this interesting panel. There were a lot of nice things in it, and I think we can all agree we tackle here a big beast when it comes to sustainability, overproduction, all these little things. But one thing was quite interesting also for me, and maybe a straight question to you guys. How do you empower mindset? How do you empower a change of mindset? And let me make it practical for you. In a really day-to-day business case, we reduced stock in one store, and the store manager hated us for that. So I have some ideas, but I would like to know how you do this kind of empower change, or this mindset change actually, because it's not in the end just to change the mindset of a CFO, but in the end, the entire value chain needs to change somehow. So the consumer, of course, but also all the people who work along the whole value chain, supply chain. So what's your ideas on that?
Was it a German customer?
It was Dutch.
he said, well, this is for you. I mean, that's maybe the toughest question. How do you change mindset? I mean, everywhere and in all the situations, I felt that the moment things became really, really business critical, that's one thing. So we're talking about urgency here, and then a changing consumer behavior is also something I felt. So the whole industry seemed to be quite hesitant for change, because I mean, if you think about, well, things are running, why should we change? And I can tell from BMW, I've met I was on an event of the BMW, and back then, it's 7 years ago, one of the board members said, well, yeah, we are profitable and we are successful, but that's the success of the past. Right, so we need to reinvent, we need to transform, and we need to go from selling cars to providing mobility. And I was like, oh my God, this sounds so fantastic, going from selling a product to mobility, right? And then you saw all the shared economic services and all of that. But then if you look today, many of the big companies have stepped out, and they have either sold it or closed it down. And if you would talk to BMW now, they would say, we are selling fantastic premium cars to the people who can afford it. And just take it in, right? And I felt that the ones who make it in a way that it becomes a business success and business critical and is paying into the new generations of consumers who are growing up, who have a different demand and a different ask, right? And I know it sounds strange, because something like Shein is exactly possible. Right, so it's not as clear to me that it's not that Gen Z, all of them are demanding sustainable fashion and would pay more money for it, so, or they just skip everything. I feel that this goes hand in hand. So the planetary resources, the legislation comes into play, so it will be more and more expensive to do inefficient business, right? And you will see a dramatic increase in your consumer base who will ask for this. So that's, for me, with the headline urgency, right? I feel that this takes a lot of time, and sometimes it may even mean that you need to involve Gen Z in your decision-making processes. Huh? But maybe there's some other answers.
From the perspective of a machine builder, machine seller, we are acting in several markets, car manufacturing, also in the technical side, medical side, and of course the fashion is the main part. So for us, it's clear we need to be close together with the brands. You mentioned it before, close with the brands and the retailers, because they drive the mentality in the market, more or less. That's what we are doing at the moment, or since many years already. We're working together with the Nikes, Adidas, and all these guys in the shoe, and Hugo Boss is in our neighborhood, also with the BMW and these car manufacturing guys, that they realize what the machines are able to reduce waste, to reduce costs, to reduce energy and all this stuff, to bring it to a level where they can talk, we have a sustainable and traceability production at the end. So, and then bring it over this channel in the market. If I talked over this or through this market where it's mass production, that's a different, because they get the input from the brands. You know, we develop something in Europe and they transform it to Asia to produce it, so the input coming from there. So for me, it's clear. We need to be closer, brands and retailers.
So I think I have quite a good example about change. So actually it's about vision, yeah, and like taking the customer where it will be, yeah. So and I have a good example today. So I got a call from my wife, and she asked, "Okay, Steffen, your son's like preferences for Christmas changing. Yeah, why? Yeah, why? Yeah, he wants like a jogging pants and a hoodie, from some brand with like 2 letters and a number." I said, 6 p.m. Okay, yeah, there's an NFL collaboration outside. Yeah, and I mean, I just had a call actually this morning exactly about this, yeah, about culture, about change, what is happening in the future, about Generation Z actually, yeah, who will be a big ratio of the entire consumer market in 10 years, yeah, and the industry needs to change, and the sense of urgency is there. It's dramatically there. And I have to say, yeah, even I mentioned Shein as an example actually, I think the industry need to be fast, yeah, because each sales which goes there will not go to the traditional players. And they are 30 billion US dollar worth right now. And I think it's really the sense of urgency is really there that we do the change with partners like you. Yeah.
If I may add to that, I know I'm the moderator. Thank you, Marte. Asking for permission. I think FOMO, fear of missing out, will probably put a bit of pressure on that mindset change. So maybe we should just, give a couple of clever people and talented creatives the opportunity to play around with that type of technology and create success stories and best practice cases so that they understand, okay, we are overrun, maybe we should speed up a bit. So that would be my take on that.
Okay, thank you. Is anyone else having any more questions, or shall we close the discussion by now? I would just there is another.
Hi. Thank you so much for all of the great input so far. I just have one more question, which kind of loops back to the first edition of the VORN Academy that we saw last year. And I'm just curious, now that people are kind of saying that the NFT bubble has burst, but I'm curious where you stand in terms of virtual fashion still being an arena for positive social or environmental change, and where do we stand now, kind of a year out from this big NFT boom?
I would just love to invite the two guys over. Maybe you can come join us here, because they're laughing their asses off. But you probably want to go first, but there's no one in this room who does not have their hands in the whole Web3 bubble to some extent, even without knowing. Do you want to contribute to that?
If you give me the microphone. No. We have this in our innovation funnel as a team. We think it's exciting, and sorry if I don't use the right language for that, virtual fashion or digital fashion or however you might call it. If you look how people are spending time with the internet or the new iteration of the internet and how this is growing, and you look at the numbers of how many people play games, right? It's just such a huge industry, right? And if you are a brand who's producing fashion and who's there for making people look good, feel good, express their personality, show who they are, then this doesn't stop when people are entering the internet with an avatar, right? So we learned that in all the surveys on all the platforms, may it be Roblox or Fortnite or whatever, people are like caring about how they look, who they are, who they want to be, right? It's not necessarily the same person as on the physical streets. So it becomes business relevant. And I feel that this is just one part of that medal. Like, what are the digital goods? How do brands go in there and help consumers to express themselves? But what I love even on equal level is how this has an effect on the traditional way of how garments are made, right? So you don't need to produce a physical sample today to take a decision on what to produce and where to bring it. A perfect digital data or point is, you can even use it for use cases like virtual try-on, for example, right? You have mentioned it. So I feel the technologies that are out there that are used in gameplays for creating assets on Fortnite and Roblox, it just shows that the consumer's ready for these new kind of assets, but they will have an effect on the traditional way how we produce, which means dramatically less CO2 emissions in the sampling process. You don't need to send stuff around the world to make a design and someone is taking a business decision on it. So that's at least part of the equation why we think it's amazing to be in that field. NFT might be different, but digital fashion for me is extremely exciting.
Let's ask people with the real expertise in it. Is the NFT bubble burst?
Depends on where you stand. So some NFT bubble, what sort of like most of us have seen, as in like these weird little apes and all of these collections, yes, that has partially burst, but that's not really what, for example, we are doing. So maybe as a quick introduction, we are a platform that essentially allows artists to sell digital artworks or generative art, meaning art done with code. So since computers have been around, which is roughly the 1960s, artists or people that are a bit nerdy, like they have tried and made art with code. Through blockchain, through NFTs, they can now finally make a living off that. We built essentially a platform for them to sell it. That, in the first place, is entirely digital. But artists not only want to have their artwork on like big screens, they also want to see that in the actual world. That can either be you print out your algorithm, you plot it, or like for example here, you turn that artwork into like a physical wearable fashion item. And that is sort of where we are more sort of like focused on, which is also why we're here today, because we want to try this out. As far as like digital fashion goes, to answer that question, like I'm not an expert there. I don't really have an opinion. It will come at some point, probably mostly like through like all of these AR, VR things. Might be in Roblox, might be if you see, for example, like the podcast that Mark Zuckerberg did with, I think, like Friedman, where they all have like their AR avatars on. Like it was just a black T-shirt, but why couldn't I wear like a nice T-shirt or like a branded one also there? Like I might need to buy it. That might then need to go through the NFT, just like because it is like the base layer of technology, similar to how like HTTPS is something that we use the internet for. It will be turned into like backend. Most of the users won't know it is an NFT, but it will still exist. But yeah, like there is this sort of like digital to physical fashion part that is hugely interesting, and is sort of like right now just getting like explored. So if you're interested in that, I'm more than happy to sort of like talk you through it. Yeah, my little 2 cents on all of this.
Okay, thank you.
We have one more.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to add to the question and to the comments that were made, because I think what happens when you work in a digital tool is that you bring 2 aspects together, and those 2 aspects are traceability and intellectual property. And also speaking about these fast fashion companies like Shein that you mentioned, one of the big issues is of course that they are copying styles that have been invented and with love and care in places like this, and then they just end up on a storefront. And that's the great benefit of having a digital tool, that you can really apply a digital stamp from the creator's intellectual property throughout the whole supply chain, and that is actual then traceable going forwards, backwards, and into all directions. So no matter the product, where the product goes, in the end it can be always benefit the actual creator. And I think this is gonna be the second big benefit of NFTs and blockchain after the big ape burst.
Very thanks for adding that very important contribution. Maybe you can add, because people might wonder what tool you talk about. Say just one word about yourself. And
yes, I'm from CLO, CLO Virtual Fashion. So really the 3D creation tool behind fashion.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for sharing. Steffen also wanted to add a few examples.
Yeah, actually one. We have a UK-based factory, which his name is Digital Twin, and actually they are focusing exactly on this topic. I think if you consider like the transformation to on-demand, or in general like onshore, I think this use case is the most possible one. Yeah. And actually what I think we could consider, and I mean we had initial talks here with FX hash. Yeah, I think the interesting part is also the business case behind. Yeah, to really think of how to make a realistic one out of it. I mean, in the sneaker business, we see that it works. I mean, Artifact bought Nike, the startup, and is very successful with it. So I think it's.
The other way around. Like Nike bought Artifact.
Nike bought Artifact. Oh, sorry for that. Okay, it was just a test that you listened to my. So yeah. Okay. Anyway, that's my 1.5 cents.
Thank you very much.